All right, so good evening once again, and thank you for joining me on Off the Court. The name is Wenson Mavoro, your basketball show specifically dedicated to keep you all things basketball, both local and international. And when I talk about international, I'm obviously talking about what's happening outside the Zambian borders on the African continent and beyond. And this evening, we'll be having an exciting episode that will be looking at something very interesting that has dominated talk within the world of basketball. And this has to do with the Basketball Africa League. Now, we are aware that there is a conference tournament happening under BAL in Pretoria, South Africa at the moment. And one of the teams that was scheduled to participate in that particular conference is Dynamo Basketball Club from Burundi. And this time around, actually, they were looking pretty much solid, and the team was looking good. And unfortunately, something happened, and as you may be aware, not continue in the tournament because they did not comply with the rules and regulations of the tournament. When I talk about the rules and regulations, that is wearing a jersey that has the logo Visit Rwanda, who we know are some of the sponsor stakeholders of this particular Basketball Africa League. And that, as a result, earned them a disqualification, and there's been a lot of talk surrounding that. So tonight we'll be weighing in on that particular issue, and of course looking at other areas of basketball. And joining me on this important conversation is a very seasoned gentleman, all the way from South Africa, and his name is Yele Jr. And I must mention that this man is dedicated and committed to be able to converse with us this evening, in the sense that, as you may be aware, Zambia is also struggling with the issue of load shedding at the moment. We're dealing with 8 hours of load shedding. And South Africa, of course, has been dealing with load shedding from I don't know when. But Junior has decided to brave load shedding and just to come through and be with us on the show this evening. So I really appreciate you, big brother, for joining me this evening. Good evening to you, and how are you?
Thanks, man. Good evening to you, and thanks for having me. Yeah, we in the dark, but I'll try my best, and we're doing great, man. It's too hot, but yeah, in the name of basketball, we have to make it happen. So thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, when we talk about nothing but love for the game, this is what is all about. And this is what we try to achieve on this particular podcast each time we have these conversations. So this evening, as indicated, we're looking at the issues surrounding Dynamo Basketball Club, all the way from Bujumbura, Burundi, failing to continue participating in the Basketball Africa League. And another guest that is joining me is a household name in basketball. This is a gentleman that you know very well, some of you. He has been on the show before, and this is no other than Kelvin Ben. You're welcome, Chief.
Good evening, guys. Sorry, I'm coming in a little bit late. How are you, Junior? Long time. It's been
Good
what,
evening,
6 months now?
Coach.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How
All
you
right,
doing?
I'm doing extremely great. Yeah. So as we get to continue with the show, I'll appeal to you, both gentlemen, to make sure that each time you are not on the floor speaking, you mute your microphone so that we do not get that irritating feedback sound. So just kindly ensure each time you're not on the floor, you keep the microphone muted and unmute it the moment you are making your submission or contribution. So first and foremost, Junior, I'll start with you. From your understanding, just bring up to speed what really happened with Dynamo Basketball Club. I know that you're in South Africa at the moment, Johannesburg, which is obviously miles away from Pretoria. But as a person who's a journalist and covers basketball, from your perspective, what is this issue about?
Let's just say it got a lot to do with the political tension between Burundi and Rwanda. So I know people always say that sport and politics don't mix, but we are the moment where politics and sports are just mixing, and those are the results. So what happened is that Burundi and Rwanda are not in good terms. For those who follow politics, they know that in January already, Burundi closed its borders it borders with Rwanda. So the tension is very bad. So, and the policies in Burundi, if you speak to people in Burundi, is that Burundi doesn't support anything that has to do with Rwanda. So they don't promote anything Rwanda. They don't support anything that got to do with Rwanda. So when they came to Bâle in Pretoria, so the idea was like, since we don't support this movement, we don't support anything Rwanda, so we don't want to play with jersey that has the Visit Rwanda on them. And because it was the first game, and they took the Bâle by surprise. So what they did is they put a black tape around the Visit Rwanda, and they managed to play the first game, which you know, like Bâle had no choice because it was the second game, and the fans, the camera were rolling, so Bâle let it happen. But in the second game, Bâle was like, it's not going to happen. You have to Visit Rwanda is a sponsor. You need to comply with the dressing codes, and they say we're not complying, and we're not playing, which results in a second forfeit. And the third game was the same issue. And according to FIFA rules, once you forfeit twice in the same tournament, obviously, you get disqualified from the tournament, and that's what happened. And apparently, the call came from the government in Burundi, and yeah, they had to go home, and that's where we're standing right now with only 3 teams out of the 4. And it's just bad because they were looking very good. The first game, the amazing team, and they show us what they're capable of by beating the Cape Town Tigers. And it was just a very good team. And obviously, politics has to happen, and that's why we're sitting where we are right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Junior, for that submission. We will get to you later on just to find a little bit about Cape Town Tigers as well. But Ben, let me come to you. What is your reaction, or what was your reaction, and what are your thoughts with regards this setback? I don't want to call it a development because in my books, this is a setback. So what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know how I always get myself into controversial situations like this. As Junior said it, there is politics in every sport. This is why you find out that Russia today is not participating in any international tournaments because of their decision to invade Ukraine. But when it comes to Bâle, I think the point and problem with Bâle is that they put themselves in this position, and I see a lot of teams coming and starting to express themselves, especially after the debacle, because Dynamo is the first team that has stood up against Bâle to say we are not going to wear this kit because we don't believe anything that happens, or we don't believe in anything that has to do with Rwanda. BAL has chosen Rwanda as their destination. We know the finals are going to be played in Rwanda, but there are arenas, magnificent arenas throughout Africa. We saw the arenas in Egypt. We saw the arenas in South Africa. We've seen what they have in, I think, in Tunisia and Morocco. And I know Nigeria has got a brilliant arenas that we can use for Bâle. But this, to me, is the first time somebody stood up to what we think is mismanagement of basketball, what I term mismanagement of basketball in Africa. And it's an unfortunate development because Dynamo were looking very well and could probably have won and represented the Kalahari Conference as the leaders. But I say it with conviction that it is high time for Mamadou and his crew to go and sit down and see the repercussions of what they've termed decisions that are making this tournament flow. Rwanda is benefiting from
you mentioned something very important. You talked about mismanagement of basketball in this case. Perhaps you could specifically elaborate exactly what you mean when you say mismanagement.
Okay, I want to talk, when I talk about mismanagement, especially of Bâle, is that number one, who is benefiting from the whole tournament? Is it the clubs that are showcasing their talent and their expertise in the competition. Is it NBA? Is it FIBA Africa? These are questions that we need to ask and answer, so that we know what item the mismanagement. For me, the tournament that used to showcase African talent at club level was club championships, and every country had 2 teams that went to play qualifiers and then went on to go to the finals if they won the qualifiers. Today, we've got 1 team from every country. And this 1 team, for example, in the case of South Africa, Cape Town Tigers had already qualified, which meant no other team can go and play qualifiers from South Africa. They already have a team that is there. It's not every year that your winner goes on to represent the country. That's number 1. And number 2 is, why are the sponsors of the teams only allowed to have their same emblems or their names on the jerseys only in the first round and second round? When it comes to the money round, they are no longer allowed to have anything on their kits. It's now BAL and Visit Rwanda. So in this perfect scenario is, Burundi has said, we don't want to have anything to do with Rwanda. But in actual fact, they're also saying, there you go, you've got your Rwanda there, Visit Rwanda. What are we benefiting from Visit Rwanda? How much money are they putting in the competition? And how much are the teams benefiting or getting from the sponsorship? So these are questions that we need to answer. But obviously, me and Junior here cannot answer those questions. Mamadou and everybody in BAL need to come clean and tell us where the money is going, where is it coming from, and where the money is going. So the next round is going to be on ESPN. So Rwanda is going to have Visit Rwanda all over the world. At what cost? At the cost of the club that failed to make it out of the first round in Botswana for my region. So as this politics has opened up, to finish my point, I think very soon we're going to see clubs from DRC also following suit. Because remember, the conflict with Rwanda is centered on DRC, Burundi, a little bit of Uganda, a little bit of Zambia, but plenty of DRC. Plenty of Burundi and DRC. Then we've got all the other nations coming in as interested parties, but they can ignore it. But we now know and understand that the call to pull out came from Burundi. And who does not respect their government or association when they say you should pull out?
Okay, interesting submission there from Kelvin Ben. We'll get to you later on. But let me now bring in Yele, who's with us also this evening. And obviously, we appreciate those of you that are joining us online already. Comments are trickling in. Tata Jacob Mutambo, we appreciate you. And Jacob is saying, Dynamos must not be used as a tool to fight regional battles which have been caused by their political leaders. It is very unnecessary, I tell you. Now, Yele, as I come to you, Innocent, obviously joining us all the way from Helsinki, Finland. We appreciate you, Innocent, for being with us. Now, Yele, let me bring you on. As a journalist who has covered sports for quite some time and keen on basketball, we've seen these things happen in football, and Ben gave an example of what's happening with Russia and Ukraine being unable to participate in certain international events because of political decisions. And we are seeing this happening in Africa, where quite a lot of governments may not necessarily be on the best of terms, or see eye to eye on certain things. To what extent do you see this affecting, this BAL initiative that is all of a sudden becoming more popular on the African continent when it comes to continental basketball?
Thanks a lot for the question. First of all, let me just tell you, I think by now everyone is aware of the story in Africa. In Africa, every time someone got money, they have the power. When you have money, you have the power. So let me just first of all try to defend BAL, but I also try to point what is wrong with BAL. So BAL is a private company that is running a business. BNL is selling something in Africa. So they have rules and regulation. So when you agree, when you say, I'm going to be part of that thing, so you need to respect everything that comes with that product. If you don't support them, then you have to say, you know what, I'm not coming. All right. So it's up to you. It's either you take their money or you don't take the money. If you don't take the money, you say, okay, I'm not coming because I don't support 1, 2, 3, and I'm not coming. They say, no, it's fine. You're gonna take someone else because it's a private things run by private people, so they're doing business. All right. So Dynamo knew all along that Visit Rwanda is a sponsor of the BAL. All right. So for them to go there, obviously, in sport, you use your platform to send a message. So they knew already that it's not going to happen because that is sponsor of the brand. But now let's go back to BAL. Okay, so this is not, I think the problem with BAL is trying to replicate what is happening in America and do it in Africa, which is a big mistake. Africa got its own reality. So we need to have an African product and see how to move around it. So the fact, for example, where these players have to go back to their community. So these players will be seen by others as people that put the trait, like they will treat them as traitors. Some of them might get killed. Some of them might have house destroyed just because they put the Visit Rwanda. And those are aspects that BAL doesn't see. So it's not just on the court, it's off the court. That's how things happen in Africa. And okay, so for I don't see it affecting the BAL that much because they have the money, they have everything, they can make it happen. They can decide right now to make this tournament to run this tournament in any other country is gonna be successful because they have the NBA brand behind them. It's still gonna work. And plus, like I say, in Africa, when you have the money, you have the power. So if a Zambian team say we are not going or we're not doing that, it's easy for them to just switch and then take someone else. What is happening in Pretoria right now, because Dynamo is out, they just managed to bring NBA academy kids who are playing against local people, and people are going to support. So they have the money, and they're using that by not listening to what is happening on the ground, by not listening to the policy of Africa. But I don't think it's going to affect the product in the future, because it's the big brand, and there will always be someone who's going to say yes. Like we've seen in the past, we saw TP Mazembe, for instance, saying no, then they end up saying yes, and that's what will always happen, because there will always be someone who's gonna say yes while others are saying no. So I don't think it's gonna affect the brand that much.
I like the point that you've raised, Ayele, there, especially issues to do with the social impact. These players come from specific community, and I think this is what our viewers also need to understand, that for a country that has the opportunity, like BBC or Dynamo BBC from Burundi, that has the opportunity, seemingly having a good team, taking part, and then all of a sudden, due to political reasons, pulling out. And I know some people were wondering, why would they just easily do that? But I like what you've explained, the social ramification that sometimes we may not pay attention to. But these people come from communities, families, and they've got relatives. Some of them are patriotic to their country and may be seen as traitors. So I just thought I could amplify a little bit on that, and thank you for that very important point. But let me draw your thoughts to what I've put on the screen right now. A view from Ephraim Oniu Mutondo. And what Oniu is trying to say here is basically saying BAL needs to tread carefully in order not to look like they are being controlled by one country, which is Rwanda. Building on what Ben said, I would like to get back to you, Yele. Do you think that the way that BAL, obviously there are rules and regulations that were set in the beginning, all teams know about this, but this particular event, don't you think it is creating a perception, as Ephraim is saying, that maybe perhaps BAL is controlled entirely by Rwanda, and whatever happens or whatever Kigali says is what passes, irrespective of your point?
Let me just break it down and then prove people wrong. If I ask you right, who's the how do I call the baby of the ball right now? If I ask the question to all our viewers, if I ask who's the baby of the ball, they will tell you it's Cape Town Tigers. It's not Burundi. It's not Kigali. So I just want to tell people that people look at Cape Town Tiger as being the baby of the ball. Everyone will tell you that looks like Cape Town Tiger is protected. Cape Town Tiger is this brand of the ball and stuff like that. You know, the way they promote Cape Town Tiger and stuff like that. But like, my point is this: when it's come to Kigali, is who puts the money on the table. If Kigali have put a lot of money, even though they have the support of other people and stuff like, but if Kigali puts a lot of money in sport, whoever puts the money dictates the rules and regulation. So if Kigali have put a lot of money, of course they're going to dictate everything is going to happen. If we wake up tomorrow and we have another country or another company from Zimbabwe or from DRC or in South Africa saying, you know what, I want to be the main sponsor, this is what I'm putting on the table, we're going to turn around that. We're going to look at that company. So in sport, there's no secret. Whoever puts the biggest money on the table dictates the rules and regulation. And you know, when you put the money on the table, you give your condition. My condition is like, I want to see myself on all the big screen. I want to see myself on a jersey. I want this and this to happen. I want to see the final. I want the final to happen in Kigali, and I want this and this to happen. So because they've put money on the table, I think they have the right to dictate the thing. Until someone else step up and put the money on the table, it's still gonna be that way for years to come.
Okay, let me now bring Kelvin on. Kelvin, he who pays the piper, we've been told, controls or calls the tune. Now, do you think that African governments should now take in interest to be able to see, you know, what stake they can begin to invest in? Because we know that Rwanda at the moment, as indicated by Yele, has some significant stake in this BAL initiative. And I remember in its formative stages, it's only season 4, by the way, so I'll still consider it in its, you know, I wouldn't say infancy, maybe, for lack of a better term, but it is still in its, you know, development stage. Do you think that African governments perhaps should be able to take in interest and begin to invest in this initiative so that we can have more say and develop a product that suits our policies and speaks to our international relations?
Okay, I'll come back to your question. I just want to add or disagree with Junior. We always disagree. He knows we don't see. We don't agree in a lot of stuff when it comes to basketball. So for starters, I understand the big bucks are with BAL, Amadou and these guys, but we need to understand what BAL came to replace. They came and replaced Continental Showcase. They came and replaced the AFCON of basketball. So they should remain resolute on maintaining the Continental Showcase in the clubs. So the moment one club has pulled out because of sponsorship, which we actually do not know if it's benefiting anyone out there, but from a team, from a country that has never
Okay, we seem to have some audio challenges over there from Ben. And one of the beauties about this platform. Okay, Ben is back.
Let me try.
Okay, anyway.
Let me take it from him, because me and him, we kind of fight a lot when it comes to these issues. but like I said, so the road to BAL is dictated by, it's run by FIBA. All right, FIBA Africa run the road to BAL. So the BAL says that, okay, when you're done with the road to BAL, I'm taking the last 12 to run my BAL.
So Yele, Ben is back.
Yeah.
Ben is back. So I think let's just allow him to conclude his thoughts so that you
right.
can, yeah, you can respond properly.
Not a problem.
Okay, so
Sorry, I think it's the network. I'm not in control. So I was saying they need to know that they've replaced the continental showcase, and that has to remain their goal, to have a continental showcase for clubs in Africa. The moment that some clubs are sidelined due to political affiliations, then theirs fails to be a continental showcase. It has now basically become we choose who comes, like they've done now. Quickly, they went and picked up the NBA Academy to come and replace, which means the teams that failed to make it to this stage were all ignored. Well, maybe there was not enough time, and maybe we blame Burundi, the actual Burundi government for this. But remember that this is the hierarchy, or this is the channel. A club is under its federation, its regional federation. For example, in Joburg, it's JBL. So Cape Town Tigers is probably under a Cape Town banner, and from there they come and play in the South African Basketball Association. And remember, South African Basketball Association, or BSA, is under the Ministry of Sport in that country. For them to play in any continental tournament, they are cleared by their government under the wing of the sports office. So if we have a sports office that then writes and says, you are not going to wear this kind of kit because of ABC. We have seen this in Europe and in America. They've said nobody who sells cigarettes is allowed to advertise. So it's the same scenario here. If Rwanda is not in good terms with Burundi, DRC, Zimbabwe, probably Uganda, and so forth, how then are we taking a continental showcase and putting it at the doorstep of somebody who we all don't believe in?
okay, interesting submission over there. So let me bring you on now.
All right, so Coach K, this is actually my point. The BAL doesn't get involved into the road to BAL. The road to BAL still what we use was known as the club championship, where zone and zone you need to qualify and stuff like that. And you know the challenges that we had to face, which the challenges were we didn't have enough money. It's always about money. That's why club couldn't make it and stuff like that. So, like I said again, I'm going to repeat myself. The person who puts money on the table dictates the rules and regulation. The reason why we have a lot of forfeits in the zone is because club can't afford to go there. So now here we go, this big organization that say, I'm going to put my money, not even their money. They say, I'm coming with my sponsors. We put money on the table and we're going to run this thing. All right. So now you tell me that those guys, now we need to dictate them who must come on board and who mustn't come on board. The reason why I support and I don't support Dynamo on what they did, because the tickets for them to come to Johannesburg was paid by BAL sponsors. The hotel where they were staying was paid by BAL sponsors. So they didn't say no to all those conditions. Visit Rwanda is not the only sponsor, the only Rwanda sponsors on board. There's the Rwanda Airways that is also sponsors. So they didn't say no to all that money. None of them even said that the money that is given to each club, they didn't say no, we're not taking this money because it comes from your sponsor, and a part of that money comes from Visit Rwanda and from Rwanda Airways. No, they did not say that. So they haven't been consistent. You cannot take money one side, benefit from money one side, then come and say we're against this brand. Because those guys need sponsor to run this program. That's why I say we need to know how to balance these things. Because when they were eating and staying in those hotels, the money was paid by Visit Rwanda and by Rwanda Airways and other sponsors of the BAL. So for you now to come back and say, I'm not putting the brand on my jersey while you spend their money and eat their money, it's not fair. So we need to know how to come to balance the whole thing. From the beginning, you can say, I'm not going. If you say from the beginning, I'm not going, you have a valid point, because you're not eating their money, you're not benefiting from their money. But the minute you eat and spend their money, then you come up and say, I'm not doing it. It's unfair because you spend already their money. So that's why I say we need to know how to balance the whole thing. And yeah, that's my point, basically.
Just trying to unmute my, okay. So do you then think that it would have been, say, perhaps we saw a similar situation in football where people refused to wear the rainbow armbands, as Jacob is pointing out in the comment section there, to say they were fined, given a certain small fine, not necessarily hindering participation, but just given a small fine, to show that, okay, look, this is something that we set as a rule for this tournament, but because due to your reasons that we respect, you will not wear these armbands, here's a fine. Don't you think that maybe going forward, BAO should also begin to look at certain things? Because what if we have a situation that is bordering, say, on religion? And religion is also another important and major issue that even at the just ended World Cup, we saw had a lot of issues involved. But because, as you rightly indicated, Qatar has the money and they had no choice but to still take it there. But there were still conflicts bordering on religion. So do you think that maybe BAO should be looking at ways of saying, okay, you're a good team, we want this thing to be nice?
That's why I support you guys. According to me, we've seen it in the NBA. It did happen back then when the NBA didn't want certain color of shoes. And a company like Nike and Michael Jordan were coming with their colors. The solution wasn't that they mustn't play. The solution was, are we going to find them? So my solution was that they have to play, but they need to find them, because a sponsor is giving us money for us to run this thing. So if you don't want to have a sponsor, that sponsor on your kit, you still are going to have a kit without the sponsor, but we need to find you. So somehow, because the sponsor is going to request maybe some of his money back, saying that I did pay for ABC, you only gave me AB, so I want my C back. So we're going to find the team that didn't respect the C by getting the money back and giving back to the sponsor. That was my idea. We don't need to ban those guys, because remember, in sports, the only platform you have to express yourself is that sport, where you are the biggest platform that you have, and that's where you can express yourself. They have the right to express themselves, but because we cannot take that right away from them, we just need to find them, because they cannot benefit from the sponsor's money and also benefit from the platform. So we need to take something away from them. So I support the idea of finding them. We need to find them a certain amount, because the sponsor gave money and they don't want to have a sponsor on their jersey. Let's find them a certain amount of money and let them play. That was my idea. But BAL got its own decision, so I'm not part of the BAL, but I would have wanted them to just find the teams so that they can get the sponsor money back and let them play. And yeah.
So Kelvin, I'm now coming to you, and obviously some people have supported this decision. I was looking at different social media platforms where we've seen people from different parts of the world supporting the decision by Dynamo BBC for standing for what they believe in, politically speaking. And at the same time, this has also triggered conversations in some quarters where people are saying, maybe it's high time we just do not allow the idea of club championships, say at regional level, to just die a natural death and just depend on one opportunity to play basketball, such as the BAL. Do you think that maybe this should be the right time for certain regions to also begin to look at other avenues, such as the former club championships that we used to have?
I am very grateful you brought up this point. Here in Southern Africa, which is the region Zone 6, there was a talk of a Zone 6 league. And it started around the time that BAL also started, but it obviously didn't kick off because of funds. So we would love for there to be another not even regional, continental, that goes or parallel with BAL, because we have already seen that with BAL we don't have a voice. They came, as Junior said, they came with a plan that really is not working with most of the clubs, but they are still prepared to see it through and take it through. You bringing up that we might want to come up with another alternative is actually us fighting the BAL. And like Junior said, I think we need to find each other. We need to express ourselves, and we need to be heard. And my bone of contention is the first, we should stay away from government sponsorships if we are in a continental showcase. By that, I'm saying no one particular government should have more say than other governments in a continental showcase. And in this case, Rwanda has got a higher say than anyone else in this competition, by mere fact that everything is centered around Rwanda. And Rwanda has become the capital city of basketball in Africa. There is a lot that has happened in BAL, and people were not making noise about it. This is the first thing and the first time that noise has been made, and people are actually talking about it. Because when Morocco lost their automatic qualification in the last 16, nobody spoke about it. Everybody just went around and doing their business. So I think the first thing is that if Amadou and his crew are actually listening or would want to listen to us, let's stay away from government-sponsored initiatives, because our first conflict is actually sitting there. Then number two, we need to find ourselves. But before finding ourselves, where is FIBA in all this mess? What is FIBA saying in all this mess? They remain quiet because they've got their piece of cake, which has been cut and put on their plate, and they are happy to eat that and forget about their affiliates. Because the affiliates are now saying, you've put Rwanda on our jerseys, and we are in direct conflict with Rwanda. And you know, since the genocide era, we do not agree with Rwanda. And Rwanda, in terms of politics, is at a precarious stage where the countries around it have started questioning a lot of things in Rwanda. So already, if I were one of the people running BAL, I'll try and move away from Rwanda as quickly as possible, because it is going to come and it will not stop. We will see the same from DRC. Remember, the biggest conflict is between Rwanda and DRC, not Rwanda and Burundi. And what happens to the clubs in DRC when they are told that you are going to participate in the tournament, but we're giving you the condition, and the one condition is that nothing of Rwanda is going to be on your jerseys. I don't know how that is going to be held, because precedence has been set, and I see clubs coming in and just following suit until putting more pressure on BAL until something is done. So let's find ourselves, but FIBA needs to say something and needs to act, because this is a continental showcase. And I say it with conviction that this is a continental showcase. They can come with their terms and conditions, but it should remain a continental. And continental means only those that have failed to reach a certain stage or to abide by certain rules and regulations of FIBA, not BAL. BAL needs to come in with the FIBA rules, and everybody who abides and is straight with the FIBA rules should be given an opportunity to be in the tournament. And I think Visit Rwanda is already oversubscribed, and I think they shouldn't really be a lot of outcry about it if it's not on the jersey.
Obviously, Kelvin, we can't really say they're oversubscribed. They're still looking for the money. But you mentioned something very important. You talked about a situation where these clubs must also be sort of weaned off from, government sponsorships and everything. But again, I'd like to find out, how is that possible? Because, for example, in Zambia, we have Material Magic, that has been participating in the BAL. Assuming Material Magic wanted to participate, and then there are some diplomatic issues that may make it tricky. Now, if Magic still sources money from the private sector to be able to travel, and then ZBF, remember, plays a role, as Yele had explained earlier on. If ZBF doesn't give a go-ahead, doesn't give a blessing, how do clubs handle that particular situation? Going to your point where you said we should also move away, of which I agree with, by the way, moving away from government, sponsorships and all these things. But how do we strike a balance between the blessing from the federation, which is very key for these tournaments?
So, for lack of a better word, I will say that we can win ourselves off our federations and our governments financially, but we remain attached by a umbilical cord that we're going to have for the rest of our lives. For us to be able to partake or participate in any tournament in this world, we need their blessing, we need their clearance, we need their approval. So for as long as that is there is going to be conflict when another government from another country uses that same sporting facility or channel as a vehicle to run their own country. So I will say it with conviction that we are going to have a problem with Visit Rwanda from the day that Dynamo said they're not going to put on a kit with Visit Rwanda. We're going to have that problem, and it's going to be with us and by us until such a point people have actually seen that Visit Rwanda can still be a sponsor in the tournament, but be away from the actual kit or regalia that the clubs are wearing. Thank you.
Okay, Yele, let me come to you, and I'll go straight to what.
I just want to.
Okay, go ahead.
With Watch KC, this is my solution. BAL needs money. All right, they need a lot of money to organize the BAL, right? So they go for the sponsors. So this is what they can actually do, and that's what I'm joining Coach K in his decision. Let the club sponsors be part of the journey, the whole things. Let them come on board and take and offload, something from you. All right. Let's say if they spend about 1,000, I don't know, 1 million for the whole continent, by allowing clubs to bring on their sponsors, they can cut it down maybe to half of the money. So just allow clubs to come with their jersey, to come with their sponsors at the BAL, and I think that we're not going to have such issue. Because imagine if Dynamo had to come with their own sponsors on their jersey, they're not going to have Visit Rwanda on their jersey. All right, they're going to have part of the BAL money, but they still also have to benefit from their own sponsors. So if they can allow that to happen, but as long as we're going to depend 100% from the BAL to receive everything from jersey, from the hotel, from the court, from all these things, and they have to pay for all those things, I think they will still have the last word to say, and they still have to tell us how to run things and how to dress up and how to do things, because they're bringing in all the money that we couldn't do when we were at the club at the qualifiers.
So again, I'll go back to the point that Kelvin raised, with regards the sponsorships from clubs taking part in the tournament only goes to a certain stage. The moment it's on a way bigger stage, the moment ESPN is involved, that is watched world over, you discover that only a few sponsors have the privilege to showcase their products on that particular stage. Don't you think that it would also encourage clubs? For example, if Yele was a millionaire in dollars in Zambia and is willing to sponsor Material Magic, and our pitch is tailored in such a way that, look, once we qualify from the group stages where we are at the moment, from this conference stage, your products, your name, your visibility will now be at the world stage. Don't you think if that decision was made, it would also encourage sponsors resident in these countries to also begin to supplement and sponsor clubs? Your thoughts on that?
That effect, guys, we can't bush around it. That effect, you know, clubs spend the most money is not spent at the BAL. The most money is spent on the road to BAL, because you play like round 1 and round 2 for some, and others they play only 1 round, others don't even play round. That's where the club spend the most of the money. And when you go to the BAL, they don't even give you what you've spent all along the road to BAL. So when you were going to the road to BAL, you had to go and knock at some doors, ask sponsors to give you money so that you can go to the road to BAL. But then you have to tell those sponsors that you're only sponsoring me up to B. The minute I get to C and I'm on ESPN, I'm on all these big platforms, you're not going to be there. Now, you tell me who's that sponsor who's going to say, you know what, I'm giving you money just for you to qualify. And when you get there, I'm not going to be on your jersey. I'm not going to be anywhere, and I'm fine with it. It's not working that way. And that's why clubs will lose more and more sponsors, because there's no sponsor on earth who's going to accept those conditions, because all the sponsors, they need that biggest platform. And when it comes to that biggest platform, the BAL becomes selfish. They want to keep that biggest platform for themselves. They don't allow the people that help those small teams to qualify. Now it's all about themselves. It's all about their sponsors. And that's going to create more and more problem in the future, because the small people that used to give you something to get to the road to BAL, we now say we're not even going to give you that one, because when you get there, we're not part of the picture. And that's a danger for the road to BAL.
Kelvin, let me bring you, building on the same particular point. This particular structure that Yele has ably built on, that he has spoken on ably, for me, I'm beginning to see a problem again of inclusiveness. So how do we strike a balance then between, remember, FIBA's objective is predominantly developmental, to help the sport grow, invest in the right structures on the grassroots and everything. But the Basketball League Africa simply does not care about the structures. It's about profit. It's about clubs branding themselves properly, having the financial muscle to be able to compete on that elite stage. So you tell me, how then do we strike a balance, 1, on inclusiveness, 2, on ensuring that grassroots basketball does not die? Because I remember way back, through club championships, we would see what Zimbabwe is capable of. We would see what Angola is capable of. Sometimes even the young players, you would know that this one very soon is going to be in the national team and will be a problem. But it's very difficult to see that now under the BAL setup.
As people know, I'm very critical of FIBA and FIBA Africa in particular. I don't think they've got asset heart as the basketball fraternity. I don't think they even consult. If they do, they've never consulted anywhere where I'm close to, or I've never been in a platform where consultations have been done by FIBA. So in terms of basketball development, I think actually NBA and EuroLeague are doing more on basketball development through just social media than what FIBA is doing in my region, in particular in my country. There are more NBA youth academies in Africa than there are FIBA academies in Africa. I don't know how to put it in a polite way, but the truth is we are in this mess because of FIBA Africa. They saw an opportunity with BAL, and they knew their hands are going to be away from this. They've got a slice, which we don't know about, which gets cut every time when a BAL is making money and comes to them. Nobody knows about the figures. Since this is a company, like Junior had said, that is set up to make money. Every company is set up to make money. If they didn't want to make money, they would have come with an NGO or with with an initiative where we actually know no money is being made. The fact that they're on ESPN means there's money. The fact that we are today speaking about Visit Rwanda means there's a lot of money. So FIBA is difficult to deal with because it has got its own way of thinking, which we don't agree with. They come with scenarios and they come with decisions that we've all never understood. And they've never consulted anybody. If they do consult the federations, then we've never heard about it. But we just know that FIBA will not be able to come up with anything that strikes a balance across board, across all the countries, in particularly in Africa, that is going to be easy to implement and acceptable by everybody. I know every club owner outside the chosen ones, every other club owner who has tried to play in BAL is either sunk or is in debt.
What do you mean the chosen ones?
There are some clubs that get favors from BAL. I don't want to put too many theories, but Yele just said it. Cape Town Tigers are probably the product of BAL, because remember, Cape Town Tigers was not a team before BAL. There was no team in Cape Town that played in the actual South African leagues. But as soon as BAL was structured, Cape Town Tigers came in a way, and obviously because they had money, they managed to get players, and now they're one of the biggest clubs in Africa. But they're barely 5 years old. Matero Magic has been in Zambia ever since I got into basketball. Cameo has been in basketball ever since I got into basketball. I was 15 when I discovered there was Cameo. But Cameo has never been to BAL. But Tigers, 5 years old, probably 4.5 years old, or probably 4 years old, the face of BAL. We can't talk about the Angolan clubs because they've got a lot of government sponsorship, but the government does not advertise on their jerseys, but they've got a lot of government backing in Angola. So for FIBA to strike a balance here, they'll have to probably be harsh to the sponsor and say, this is what we want. You're going to run this tournament this way. This we don't want. But FIBA, knowing FIBA, that is never going to happen. FIBA has got its own way of thinking, which I can't explain because I failed to put the dots to draw one graph, because the first level they are here, the next level they're way under, then they come higher than that. There is no cohesion in anything that FIBA is doing. There is no cohesion in anything that BAL is doing today. But what I know for a fact is whoever is running this and is sitting with the accounts and on the BAL account is making huge amounts of money, exploiting the weaknesses of FIBA, not of us, the clubs, because clubs want to play in every tournament. Clubs want to go and showcase their skills and maybe win something. But they have to have their blessing of the government and of their sports association and of their federation. If that is not ever thought about, we're going to have teams being stopped from advertising BAL left, right, and center, particularly teams that are around Rwanda and close to Rwanda, that have been in conflicts with Rwanda and around Rwanda.
All right, Yele, let me come to you. Obviously, another positive thing that we saw happen last year was the introduction of the women BAL, the Basketball League Africa for the feminine division, something very progressive, something very nice. And however, one of the issues.
What did you just say?
The women being given an opportunity to participate, or the BAL.
When was that, guys? Let's not bush around, man. This thing is not happening anytime soon. The men are already struggling. All right, the BAL men are already struggling. Okay, so just like in the NBA, all right, the NBA had to do well at some point for the WNBA to start moving on. All right, so we're already talking about the clash of sponsors, clash of money. This is Africa we're talking about. So if let's say Visit Rwanda pulls out, let's say Rwanda Airways pulls out, so we need to look for other sponsors to fill in. As much as the men, the men already, this is how things happen in Africa. As long as the men are not okay, the women won't start. So let's just put it. I mean, they announced these things was, I think last year already they were talking about it. You haven't started. All right. The club championship just started and finished. Nothing happened. So it may be a project, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon. And our ladies have to make peace with it and understand that it's not happening anytime soon. And we must FIFA Africa must just keep moving on that direction and keep playing the club championship, because the women BAL is not happening anytime soon.
Okay, so there was a tournament, I think, last year. Was it in Angola, Luanda?
No,
I know that there was.
What is happening is actually like it's a kind of NBA academy women, all right, where they select the best players. They scout the best players around Africa, and then they put them together and then they run something like that. It's not the Women Basketball Africa League yet. So we are far from there, guys. We're really far from there, because you know like, how things happen in Africa. They need to have sponsors for those ladies also to run something, and I can tell you we are far from there.
Interesting submission there. Now, just on that, you know, the same program that you were describing, one of the concerns that arose, I remember at the time, was because the two Zambian clubs that were supposed to travel to take part in that same arrangement, that was Green Buffaloes for the Army side, and then we had Dolphins Basketball Club that has got a significant number of Zimbabwean international players doing wonders in the Zambian league here, and I know Ben feels proud about that. But the complaint there was that only two countries were supposedly chosen to host the same academy games for the women under the BAL banner. That is Mozambique and Angola. And if you look at these two countries, the location was a little bit of a challenge for the majority of the countries, and the cost of flying to those countries was in its own a barrier for them to be able to even participate in those developmental arrangements. So some people were saying, look, why are you bringing something that already seems to favor Uncle A and Auntie B, and leaving everybody else in the family at a loss? Your thoughts on that?
But I think I start by pointing out to you and to Coach K. Whoever got the money control the whole things. The reason why clubs are struggling in Africa is because we don't have money. We do not have money. Our clubs don't have money. And when you don't have money, the person who brings money to the table is dictating everything. So we're already struggling with country hosting because they don't have money. A whole country cannot host a tournament in Africa because they don't have money. So now, when a country comes and say, I'm hosting, all you have to do is just show up. And you find out that we all know how life is expensive in Angola. So most clubs cannot attend. Everything that is happening in Angola, most of clubs forfeit because it's very expensive to attend a tournament in Angola. So Angola is like, okay, I'm hosting because they have a little bit of money, they're going to host. It's up to you to make it to them. Then you don't have money, of course you're not going to go. So that's the same challenge that we're facing. As long as our club won't have money, as long as we're not going to have money, we're not going to have anything to say. What are you going to tell to the person who got money and dictate everything? You can only listen and do what they want you to do. And that's what is going to keep happening and happening. Like I told you from the beginning, Dynamo is going to make noise right now. You can even check in the media, the article and everything. It's like it's been forgotten. It's like it was just a 3 days, 4 days headline. It's forgotten. And I can tell you something. I'm maybe not 100%, but I can tell you, next year, a Uganda, a Burundi team might not be in the road to BAL. because they won't want any drama, and they're gonna ban whoever is bringing drama to them. That's how they're going to dictate this thing, because they have the money, and that has been like that in basketball. Because FIBA Africa doesn't have money. When you don't have money, you don't have a say. Like Coach K say, FIBA Africa got nothing to say because they don't have money. They rely on other country to host. They rely on other people to give them money, and that's why they don't have any power.
So, Coach K, let me bring you on this one. Now, your friend, Coach K, Conrad Msonda, will be hosting an international invitational tournament. And at the moment, I know for a fact that Namibia has confirmed participation. Zimbabwe, I know, has a plan to come and win everything, because those number of teams I saw were scaring me, you know. So I know that Malawi will be participating in the tournament. I'm yet to see.
We don't travel.
And why is that? Why don't we see South Africa also participate? Josie Nuggets, you know, all these guys. You know,
I have to be honest, guys. And, it's something we've been talking about years and years. You know, South African people have to respect the neighbors, and you know, because most of their neighbors keep coming and honor the tournament. But South African hard issues and respect others tournament. So that's something we've been talking about, and that's something we need to work on. And another issue is that most of people locally in South Africa don't believe in leaving South Africa. So you might find that plenty athletes don't have passports because they never thought about leaving South Africa one day. So when you're speaking to those guys that you need to cross the border, it's like something new to them. They have to go through the process and stuff and get passport and then travel and stuff like that. And but we were preaching that that gospel, and maybe it will change in the near future.
You're right. It's one of the topics that I also don't wish to comment on, but you guys have put me on the spot. In my years of basketball, when I was in charge, I've said I will not take part in any tournament that is within South Africa. I've gone through South Africa into Lesotho. We've traveled to Swaziland numerous times, but we've never taken part in any tournament in South Africa because, like what Junior says, and I say it, and he knows I say it all the time, until a South African club has come to play a tournament in Zambia, until a South African club has come to play a tournament in Malawi or in Zimbabwe, then I will respect and go and play a tournament in South Africa. I think, like Junior has said, most of them don't believe there is any life outside South Africa. For the lack of better words, I think they look down on other countries and think if they go there, their well-being is threatened. But coming in April, we will be in at NASDAQ and probably OIDC in Zamshua. We will be there supporting. I'm not coaching at the moment, and I hope I won't be coaching anybody. I'll be there drinking my milk and supporting whoever needs to be supported, and then just enjoy basketball in Zambia. There are a lot of kids that are playing basketball in Zambia that are dying to have us watch them in a league where they're dominating. I know Panandoro is dying to show me the magic is doing it. They're now called, they were Unza Pacers. I know they've got a funny name, and I say it's a funny name. They could have got a better name. We'll be there. And I do hope everybody comes in. And then outside BAL, we have a tournament that unites basketball, that unites nations. And there is no politics because the sponsors there are generic sponsors to be particular. They are sponsors that are not aligned to governments. They are sponsors that are not controversial. I know MTN or MCell in Zambia is going to be one of the sponsors.
In fact, Ben, that is what I wanted you to speak on. You know, we have this invitational that gives clubs an opportunity that may not have a chance to internationally travel to participate in BAL, but here's a chance where they can come, showcase their skills, gauge their performance, discover areas of potential development and growth. How key is this to striking a balance between the limited opportunity that BAO offers and the development that we're talking about for clubs in Zone 6 particularly, and maybe beyond?
So the particular problem with regional tournaments like the Zambian tournament is I will not get, if I were a player today, I would not get a chance to rub my shoulders with the greats from Morocco. I would not be playing against the Kenyans. I would want in my lifetime to have an opportunity to play against the biggest clubs in the whole tournament. But like you rightfully said, this is a substitute. This is time for us, the ones that did not make BAL, to group and go and play in another tournament where we express ourselves, make friends. I've made a lot of friends, and I mean a lot of friends through basketball. Most of my friends are around basketball, and not only sporting friends, they become business partners of some sort. You spoke about Conrad. When I talk about somebody like Conrad, I'm talking of a brother in another country who, if I called and wanted anything, they will be able to help me instantly. But coming back to the actual basketball, these regional tournaments, for me, have become a market for players into these countries. For example, I know players that are going to go from Zimbabwe into Zambia. Majority of them, or not majority of them, will come back to Zimbabwe, but 3 or 4 kids will get sponsorship and will remain in Zambia and play basketball in Zambia for the rest of their career.
Interesting submission there from Ben. Now, gentlemen, unfortunately, we need to come to a conclusion of our show. I don't want to keep you longer than necessary. But coming to you, Junior, obviously you spoke about Cape Town Tigers being the darling and the face of, the Basketball Africa League, and rightfully so. They've put some moves, that have indicated towards that. Not so long ago, I think last season, we saw the son of NBA legend Dwayne Wade coming through to be able to associate with that brand, which was something very massive for basketball. But also, we've seen this year there was an invitation that Material Magic received to take part in a pre-BAO qualifiers, a tournament which was organized, but that couldn't take off. And I did inquire with a lot of people within the world of basketball, and what I was getting was pointing to a few perhaps financial challenges that the club might be experiencing, surprisingly, in season 4 of the BAL. And you being a person that is in South Africa, not necessarily in Pretoria, but Johannesburg, just bring us up to speed. What is really happening with Cape Town Tigers? And we've seen that even on the court right now, it is actually showing.
Guys, like I keep saying, man, let's not bush around. Let's go straight to the point. In our continent, and until you run a proper club, I've structures as a club with junior program, with the ladies, with different other sport discipline. Until you do that, you're just gonna throw money for a few seasons, and when you're throwing money and you're not getting anything back, you get tired because you can't just keep throwing money. I think that's what is happening with Cape Town Tiger right now. People have noticed like Cape Town Tigers went very quiet before the Kalahari conference. They went quiet. Nothing was happening. There was nothing on the media. There was nothing in terms of preparation and stuff until 2 weeks before. Then they had to put a team together and start preparing. So you can see it got everything to do with money. It got absolutely everything to do with money, because this is a club that started by throwing a lot of money all around. And when you're not making, even if at some point we heard that they have donors or I don't know, sponsors and stuff like that, those guys can't keep throwing money in and not getting anything back, because when you throw money in African basketball, what are you getting back? They don't actually, because they're not structured as a proper club which can go to municipality, which can go to provincial structures and ask for money. Since they're not structured in that way, they can only rely on donors. They can only rely on sponsors, and those sponsors want something in return. And when they're not getting that thing in return, then you run short of money. That's what is happening on the grounds. They don't have that big money they used to have anymore, and when you don't have big money anymore, you don't put players together for a long time in a hotel. You don't get them a gym. You don't look for a court where they can practice, and what you see on the court right now is actually the result of what is happening on the ground right now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. I don't know if the host can still, the Duke can still hear you. I think he's got a problem with his connection or something like that.
That's basically the issue. You know, you've been in this thing for too long, and you know what I'm talking about. You can't keep throwing money in something and you're not getting.
Okay, so I'm back.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right, wonderful. So I was saying we have to wrap up now. So Coach Ben, I would love to accord you an opportunity to give your final thoughts on this development. I would like to call it a setback, you know, for Dynamo BBC, whom I thought was looking very well, as both of you pointed out earlier on during this interview. Your final thoughts on this, and your final thoughts generally to the basketball world that is watching us right now via Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
It's a very sad development, and I say it again. To me, it's a sad development and also a positive development to a chance for BAL to scrutinize everything that they've been doing, and hopefully in season 5 come up with a plan that will not have these loopholes or have these flaws. It's unfortunate that Dynamo is playing very well. I stopped watching the conference once I knew they've been booted out because they were my favorites. They were the team that I was running with. But unfortunately, I say it again, every team serves in a continental showcase at the mercy of the government of that country. There is no way they can come through and without being granted authority to come through by the government and being given conditions. And now that countries now know that they can pull their teams or they can tell their teams what to do, and the team has to follow it. Remember, the team is at the mercy of the government. And these players can get arrested, and everybody in that camp can get arrested when they get back to Burundi and be thrown in jail for wearing Visit Rwanda, or they will be outcast in their society for wearing Visit Rwanda when they know that Rwanda and Burundi are not at loggerheads. Remember, the border was closed in January because the two countries were not agreeing in everything, and it's all over. People that don't know basketball actually know about the team from Rwanda, from Burundi, refusing to wear a kit that had Visit Rwanda. So it is still an opportunity to salvage something. If I were BAL, I would have quickly done something to salvage the participation of the Burundi team. But nonetheless, what's done has been done. BAL should sit down and reconsider and evaluate everything so that they can have a better tournament next year. And my final words are, I'll be in at NASDAQ. Everybody knows my favorite seat at NASDAQ. If they want to bring me milk, please, fresh milk. We'll be there watching regional basketball, and I think a lot of teams are going to come. I think 5 teams have confirmed from Zimbabwe. See you in Lusaka for the Suns Invitational Tournament, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being with me to Junior.
Thank you very much, Coach Ben, for joining us this evening, and as usual, you know, giving us your thoughts on what's happening within basketball from a continental perspective. Junior, coming to you. Before I ask you to tender in your final thoughts, there's an interesting thing that I've seen in the comment section from our gentleman there, Ephraim, who's talking about BAL is exploiting the development of basketball in Africa. I think we touched on a little bit on this earlier on. He says the image basketball, he says it images basketball. Okay, a bit of some typo there, but I think the gist of this, or where my interest is, he's talking about denying an opportunity for local players that fight hard, you know, to be able to take a team to a certain level, say within the BAL stage, to participate, as oftentimes we see club going for the other more pronounced international players with experience. So he's raising a concern in that line. So your thoughts on that? And after that, you can go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Before Junior comes in, I want to just say a little bit on it. I think that's what the gentleman mentions in the. I think his name is Ephraim. Yeah, what he mentions in the comment section is a topic of discussion for one entire session. It cannot be summarized or spoke about in a nutshell. But he is right. For you to participate in BAL, you need to have good players, and we now have Americans coming to play in an African league. That now takes away an opportunity from an 18-year-old who've been pushing the club games in the country to now take part there. Because for you to compete in BAL, you need to have at least 4 American players. By American players, I mean they might be African, but they've played college in America, or you're entirely going for international players, probably from Europe or wherever you can get them. I see the Angolans and Mozambicans normally go to Portugal for their players. So I think the structure of the team, the selection of the players, what Bale says we should look at in terms of players qualifying to play in each and every BAL team is a topic that is to be exploited on its own without talking about the pulling out of Dynamo from the tournament. Thank you.
So,
all right, thank you very much. So over to you, Yele.
So from my point of view, first of all, BAL doesn't tell you to go and take American. The only players that BAL gives you, like a must, is the kids from the NBA academy that you have to have. All right. So if you think you can win BAL by bringing your local players, that's up to you. So we cannot blame BAL for the way clubs put together a team. BAL never tell anyone that go take American or go take these and these guys and put them in your team, because teams want to win, because coaches want to win. Then they start opening up themselves and go left and right. You just watch Petro beating FUS from Morocco, but if you check Petro's team, it's made of Angolan team. I think maybe 80 or 90%. So they didn't go for if you believe that you can win BAL or do something with your local players, then bring them and do something with it. But because coaches don't believe in their local players, and we cannot blame BAL for that, because coach themselves don't believe in local players. So coach already do not believe in their own development, so we cannot put it on BAL. You are allowed to bring all your local players and play in BAL. But because coaches don't believe, then they start looking up and down and left and right. So it's not up to BAL. So my last word is thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us this platform to speak about basketball, African basketball, because like I always say, we can only we're African and we need to speak about African basketball. You know, the NBA got a lot of platform, and we need to create this type of platform where we speak about African basketball. And it was a pleasure sharing a little bit of knowledge, and I hope we can do it in the future. And all the best to the tournament happening in Zambia. And like I always say, we might not be there, but we wish you guys can have can stream live, and so that we can watch what is happening at Nasrec. And yeah, all the best, and I hope I come back soon to the show.
All right, so thank you very much for coming through, guys, and definitely I will create an opportunity for all of you to be able to come through. I know Ben is a regular on this show, so I don't have to worry about that, and I can guarantee that he has also given me at least someone he can debate with, which is something I like.
I always go opposite position.
Yeah, that's the beauty about you guys. That's the beauty about, you know, Ben, and that's why I like him, because he doesn't like to massage the truth, and he wants people that can give a different point of view altogether. And this is why, you know, I always relish the moment whenever he comes on this platform. So really, thank you very much to you, Coach Ben, for coming through. And I know you and I will have a lot to discuss once you come to Zambia, and we'll catch up on a lot of things and see what else we can do with regards, you know, basketball.
Stop giving him milk, please.
No, I'll make sure that we don't supply. I'll make sure that we don't supply him with milk.
No more.
We'll give him something else. Okay, we'll make sure. So I think to you, Yele, as well, thank you very much. You've been very instrumental, I think. And I must mention to everybody that, you know, the person that made it possible for even you to be here today is actually the same man that we are planning not to give milk here. You know, he's the one who just told me point blank and said, look, you need to get this guy because he's seasoned, he has the knowledge, he'll be able to make our show interesting. So I thank you also for just making time, coming through to discuss with us, and, you know, being able to just share basketball knowledge. And as you rightly put, this is not the last for you to come on the platform, and we will continue to bring people like you over so that we can talk about basketball more in depth and give candid views that would push development for the game of basketball going forward. So, and to the tournament, I know Conrad has never failed with regards planning. He's one of the basketball geniuses that we have locally. So I can guarantee you that we will be able to stream the games that will be happening. So we'll not deny you a chance to be able to follow the games and see what will be happening during the tournament. So that I wanted to make mention as well. And of course, to those that joined us, Coach Tanzo, I can already see she's joining us, giving props to Ben. It's like Ben has a lot of, you know, people that he has planted in Zambia here, you know. So anyway, Tanzo is also my very good friend, good sister of mine.
They don't like me. They don't like me, all these Zambians. They know I'm one of their worst enemies. Go to the Facebook page and see what they write about me. But it is what it is, and Zambia is my second home, and will always be in Zambia, and I'm happy with Zambians.
All right. So thank you very much, and to everybody else that was joining us online, all the way from Finland, another basketball person whom I personally know, Innocent, watching us all the way from Helsinki. Thank you very much for joining us. You know, Iliam Denge, our usual, Ephraim. And I think, Ephraim, I need to give you a reward, my brother. And we'll talk after the show, because you've been very consistent and, you know, you've been very active participating. So thank you very much. More props to you. And we will keep the conversation going on as the Basketball Africa League tournament unfolds. We will still keep you updated on what is happening. And the two gentlemen that I was talking to today will definitely come back for other interesting, important topics with regards basketball on the continent. From me, Winston Mavoro, good night, and thank you for watching and being with us today. Those of you that were on Twitter, Facebook, and, you know, what is this now? Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Yeah. So YouTube, Mouse, who likes to watch us from the States, thank you very much. We appreciate you as well. Keep watching and keep spreading the word.